HOA Karens mom's war wedding photo got 10 days in jail. The sun dipped low over Maplewood Lane, painting the cul-de-sac in a golden haze, but the warmth couldn't touch the chill in my heart. I stood in my mother's backyard, staring at the shredded remains of her most cherished possession, a black and white wedding photo from 1944, the one where she and Dad, fresh from the war, clung to each other like the world might end again. Karen, our HOA's self-appointed enforcer, had ripped it apart in front of us, her manicured nails slashing through history like it was junk mail. It started innocently enough. Mom, at 78, had decided to host a small garden party to celebrate her 60th wedding anniversary. Even though Dad had passed a decade ago, the photo was her centerpiece, propped on a wooden easel she'd painted herself, surrounded by roses from her garden. She'd spent weeks planning, her frail hands trembling as she arranged every detail. Her voice soft but bright as she told me stories of Dad's letters from the front lines. Emily, her only daughter, flew in from Chicago to help, hauling folding chairs and the stringing fairy lights across the backyard. The neighborhood was invited Mom's way of sharing joy, as always. But Karen had other plans. She'd been circling Mom's house like a vulture since the party was announced, her clipboard in hand, muttering about HOA violations. The easel was too tall for the front yard. The fairy lights were excessive. Mom, ever the peacemaker, moved the easel to the backyard and dimmed the lights. But Karen wasn't satisfied. She never was. Karen, with her peroxide blonde bob and her live, laugh, love tote bag, had a reputation for turning molehills into mountains. Last year, she'd fined Mr. Thompson $200 for planting tulips that were too red. The neighborhood whispered about her, but no one dared confront her until now. The morning of the party, I was helping Mom set out her homemade lemon bars when Karen stormed through the side gate, uninvited. Her heels sank into the grass as she waved a piece of paper, an HOA citation for unauthorized outdoor structures. I glanced at Mom, whose smile faltered, and felt my stomach twist. Karen, it's just a party, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. It's for Mom's anniversary. Can't you let this one go? Karen's lips curled into a smirk. Rules are rules, Emily. Your mother should know better. She pointed at the easel, her voice dripping with condescension. That thing is an eyesore. Take it down, or I'll do it myself. Mom stepped forward, her voice trembling but firm. That photo is my husband. It's all I have left of him. Her eyes, still sharp despite her age, locked onto Karen's. The air grew heavy, the kind of quiet that hums before a storm. I thought Karen might back off, most people would, seeing Mom's pain, but Karen just laughed, a sharp, grating sound that made my skin crawl. Sentimental nonsense, she snapped, and before I could react, she grabbed the photo from the easel. The frame cracked as she yanked it free, and then, with a deliberate, vicious motion, she tore it in two. Mom gasped, her hand flying to her mouth, and I lunged forward, but Karen wasn't done. She ripped it again, and again, until the pieces fluttered to the ground like ash. There, she said, dusting her hands. Problem solved. I don't remember deciding to scream, but the sound tore out of me, raw and primal. Neighbors peeked out from their windows, drawn by the commotion. Mom sank to her knees, gathering the fragments, her fingers shaking as she tried to piece together a moment that could never be whole again. Karen stood there, smug, as if she'd won some grand victory. I wanted to shake her, to make her feel the weight of what she'd done, but I froze, my anger tangled with disbelief. That's when Mr. Thompson appeared. He was a quiet man, a retired librarian who rarely spoke at HOA meetings, but his presence now was like a thunderclap. He'd been watching from his porch, his phone in hand, recording everything. Karen, he said, his voice low but steady. You've gone too far. He held up his phone, the video still running, capturing Karen's triumphant sneer and Mom's quiet sobs. The twist of his involvement hit me like a spark. Someone else saw her for what she was. Karen's face paled, but she doubled down. "You're all overreacting," she huffed, tossing her hair. "It's just a photo. She can print another one." But her voice wavered, and I saw the first crack in her armor. The neighbors were gathering now, their murmurs growing louder, their phones out, their eyes narrowing. Karen had ruled this street with her petty citations and her endless complaints, but she'd never faced a crowd like this. I helped Mom to her feet, my hands shaking with rage. "That was my father's face," I said, my voice breaking. "He survived Normandy. That photo was their promise to each other. You didn't just tear paper, you tore her heart." The words spilled out, fueled by years of watching Mom hold on to that photo like a lifeline, especially after Dad's death. Karen opened her mouth to argue, but the crowd's murmurs drowned her out. Mrs. Lopez, who'd lost her own husband last year, stepped forward, her eyes blazing. "You're a bully. Karen, you've been terrorizing us for years." The tension snapped like a taut wire. Karen's smugness crumbled as more neighbors joined in, their voices rising. Mr. Thompson played the video aloud, and the sight of Mom's crumpled form, the sound of her quiet sobs, turned the crowd's anger into something palpable. Karen backed away, her heels catching in the grass, but there was nowhere to go. Someone, I think it was young Jamie from across the street, called the police. Not for the photo itself, but for the trespassing and destruction of property. Karen's eyes darted around, searching for an ally, but found none. The police arrived within minutes, 2 officers stepping into the backyard with calm authority. I explained everything, my voice steady now, pointing to the shredded photo in the easel. Mom clutched my arm, her face pale but resolute. Mr. Thompson handed over his video, and the officers' expressions hardened as they watched. Karen tried to spin a story about enforcing HOA rules, but the crowd's testimony, Mrs. Lopez's fury, Jamie's shaky voice, even little Sophie from next door describing Mom's tears painted a different picture. They cuffed Karen right there, her protest growing shrill as they led her to the patrol car. "This is outrageous," she screeched, her hair falling out of place. "I'm the president of the HOA," but the officers didn't flinch, and the neighbors didn't back down. As the car door closed, I felt a strange mix of relief and sorrow, not for Karen, but for Mom, who stood silently, still holding a piece of the photo. The aftermath was swift. The HOA held an emergency meeting the next day, and Karen was ousted as president. Mr. Thompson, with his quiet strength, took her place, promising a new era of fairness. The police charged Karen with destruction of property and trespassing, and after a quick hearing, she was sentenced to 10 days in jail, a small but satisfying consequence. The judge, a woman with kind eyes, looked at Mom as she spoke, acknowledging the irreplaceable loss. Mom didn't say much, but her nod was enough. I spent the next week helping Mom salvage what we could. We scanned the torn pieces, piecing them together digitally, but the cracks remained, a permanent scar. The neighborhood rallied around us, bringing flowers, casseroles, and stories of their own run-ins with Karen. Mrs. Lopez shared how Karen had once threatened to tow her car for parking too close to a curb. Jamie admitted he'd been too scared to ride his bike after Karen yelled at him for excessive noise. Each story built a picture of a woman who'd wielded power like a weapon until it turned on her. One evening, as Mom and I sat on her porch, sipping tea under the fairy lights we'd rehung, she spoke softly. "I don't hate her, Emily. I pity her. She must be so empty to do something like that." I marveled at her grace, but I couldn't share it. Karen's actions weren't just a moment of cruelty, they were a choice, repeated over years to hurt others for control. Still, Mom's words stayed with me, a reminder of the strength it takes to choose kindness over vengeance. The party never happened, but the neighborhood threw a new one a month later, this time in Mom's honor. We set up a new easel, this time with a printed copy of the photo, framed in glass. It wasn't the same, but it was enough. As we toasted to Mom's resilience, I looked around at the faces Mr. Thompson, Mrs. Lopez, Jamie, Sophie, and felt a quiet victory. Karen's reign was over, and we'd reclaimed our community. What do you think? Did Karen get what she deserved? Or should the punishment have been harsher? Share your thoughts below.